Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/greatdetectives, and follow us on Twitter at Radio Detective. Today's program is brought to you in part by the financial support of our listeners. You can support the show on a one-time basis by sending a donation to Adam Graham, P.O. Box 15913, 15913, Boise, Idaho 83715. And I want to go ahead and thank Carolyn as well as Randall and Patricia for sending in donations that way. You can also become one of our ongoing Patreon supporters for as little as $2 per month. You can go to patreon.greatdetectives.net. Well, now it is time for this week's episode of The Man Called X, and I should note that we actually have a substitute actor in, and we'll tell you all about that after the show, but let's go ahead and take a listen to the program originally aired date July 6, 1951, and the title is The Casbah.
Now we present The Man Called X, tonight starring Joseph Cotton, the Friday night feature on NBC's five-show festival of comedy, music, mystery, and drama. Brought to you by the makers of Anacin for fast relief from pain of headache, neuritis, neuralgia. By RCA Victor, world leader in radio, first in recorded music, first in television. Joseph Cotton in The Man Called X. Wherever there is mystery, intrigue, romance, in all the strange and dangerous places of the world, there you will find The Man Called X. No matter what you now take for headache relief, we urge you to try Anacin for the incredibly fast relief these tablets bring the next time you're suffering from a headache. Now, the reason Anacin is so wonderfully fast-acting and effective is this. Anacin is like a doctor's prescription. That is, Anacin contains not just one, but a combination of medically proven active ingredients in easy-to-take tablet form. Thousands of people have received envelopes containing Anacin tablets from their own dentist or physician, and in this way discovered the incredibly fast relief Anacin brings from pains of headache, neuritis, or neuralgia. So, the next time a headache strikes, take Anacin for this wonderfully fast relief. Anacin, A-N-A-C-I-N. Anacin at any drug counter in handy boxes of 12 and 30. Economical family-size bottles of 50 and 100. The city of Algiers, lying as it does on the borderline between Africa and Europe, is a city of continual tension between the old and the new, a place where the ordinary disagreements among men may flare suddenly into violence and sweep overnight from the desert to the sea. The sharp contrast between modern Europe and age-old Africa becomes most evident perhaps at the Algiers airport, where the gleaming stratoliners from France are loaded by Arabs dressed in loincloths and sandals, cut to the same pattern as those once worn in ancient Carthage. At the moment, one such plane with its cargo and passengers aboard moves out onto the flight strip and is quickly airborne and bound for Paris. Mile after mile, it wings westward over the rich coastal belt, climbing steadily. And finally, it turns into a long sweeping bank and heads out over the blue Mediterranean. Then, suddenly, where the plane was flying, there is nothing. Scattered pieces of blasted wreckage drop from the sky and fall into the sea. The streets of Algiers seethe with anger and hatred, and messages pour out by wire and radio to Paris, London, and New York. On a floor of offices high above Manhattan streets, the messages come flooding into the teletype room of the Bureau, where trained specialists take them line by line, decode and analyze them, and send them on their way. And eventually, at the end of a long hall on the same floor, the report from Algiers arrives at the office of the chief.
I'm sorry to have to pull you off that Bramby case, Joe, but with Ken Thurston on the sick list, well, you've worked closer with him than anyone else.
Well, all I know about it is what I got from the newspapers on the way up here, Chief, and that wasn't much.
We don't have much more ourselves, Joe. But Sir Hartley Manning was on board that plane, and that's reason enough to drop everything else.
I know. UN advisor on North African affairs. The only man who's ever shown a chance of bringing about some permanent agreement between the Arabs and the French.
Yeah. He was supposed to give his decision on the Arab farm loan in Paris today. That's why the lid's ready to blow off over there. You see, nobody knows for sure what his decision was going to be, and each side's blaming the other for his murder.
I suppose there's no doubt that it was murder.
No, the plane was literally blown to bits. It couldn't have been an accident. Joe, somebody put a time bomb aboard.
Well, one thing's certain, Chief. It's got to be solved fast, or there's no point in solving it at all. I know Algiers pretty well. One spark can start a blaze.
There's a plane standing by. It's ready to leave whenever you are.
Guess I'd better start.
Joe, there's one other thing. Don't know exactly how to say it, and I'd rather that Ken Thurston wasn't told just... Joe, I just got the full passenger list a little while ago, the victims of that explosion, and... Well...
For what?
One of the names was Pagan Zellschmidt.
Pagan...
Yeah.
No.
I've always been pretty rough on Zellschmidt, but... Well, I'm sorry.
Pagan. Well, all of us here in the Bureau have been pretty rough on him. And you come right down to it, underneath it all... No. Well, Chief, I'll call you from Algiers.
If you will be so kind as to sign the register here, Monsieur Kendall.
Thanks.
I do hope that you will find our services adequate. We are somewhat disorganized, you understand, because of the tragedy.
You mean Sir Hartley Manning's
Oui,
death?
monsieur, oui. He was staying here in the hotel. I watched him walk out through this very lobby on his way to the airfield.
Too bad.
Only Aben Ahmed was with him, and a boy who was carrying the large box which Monsieur Manning was taking with him on the plane.
Large box?
Oui, monsieur. I am told it contained wine from the Arab vineyards, a bon voyage gift from Aben Hamid.
I see. Tell me, who is this Aben Hamid?
I believe he is a leader of the Arab Union. He maintains an office somewhere in the Casbah.
Casbah, huh?
I beg your pardon. Are there any messages for me?
One moment, monsieur. No, monsieur, there is nothing.
Thank you.
Monsieur Garmetz here was the only lucky passenger on that plane.
Lucky?
Ah, yes, I was already aboard when a business call over the loudspeakers calls me to leave the plane less than 5 minutes before the takeoff.
You were lucky.
Very much so. I don't believe I've had the pleasure.
Joe Kendall. I'm a new arrival, Mr. Gromitz.
Oh, well, in that case, welcome to Algiers, Mr. Kent.
Yeah.
Now, if you will excuse me, gentlemen, good
Very wealthy man, Monsieur Garmetz. Most influential.
Well, now, if you'll excuse me, Hey, just a moment there.
What do you mean, just... Oh, hello, Mr. Kendall.
Pagan. I thought you were dead.
Me? I never felt better in my life.
Your name was on the passenger list of that plane that exploded.
Oh, just an ugly rumor. Anybody that says I'm dead is nuts. Crazy, even.
Well, thank
I was
goodness.
supposed to be on the plane, you understand? Only I run into an old friend of mine at the airport, and he tipped me off.
What do you mean, tipped you off?
Well, he said that he had a hunch. I had no to take that plane, so I did it. Yes, he was psychic.
Yeah, that's one explanation. Do you know where he is now?
Not exactly. I know a couple of joints he hangs out in, though.
Well, find him, Pagan, and try to find out why he had that hunch.
But I haven't got time. I'm working.
Working. Be easier to believe you were dead.
But I am... I mean, working. I'm here buying Persian rugs for my Uncle Ahmed.
In Algiers?
All right, they're Algerian, so we get them cheaper. Who knows the difference?
Well, it's too bad you're tied up, Pagan. I figured it might be worth, say, around $100 to find out.
I'll have the dope in an hour. Where are you going to be?
Back here, probably. Right now, I'm going up to the Casbah.
Going to see the dancing girls, eh?
No. I'm going to look for a killer.
Huh?
More tea, Mr. Kendall.
No thanks, Abenhamid. One's plenty.
Mr. Kendall, this exchange of pleasantries has been most agreeable. But this old one has the feeling that you have come to Abenhamid with more in mind than a mere social visit.
And this old one has probably guessed what I have in mind.
One assumes that a man from the Bureau would be investigating the tragedy of Sir Hartley Manning's death.
And if I were, would you know anything about it?
Only that his death was also tragedy for my people. It is possible that the loan to the farmers may not be granted now.
Well, according to the rumors around the city, Manning had decided not to recommend the loan.
The rumors are false. Yes. Sir Hartley stated on the way to the airport that he had decided to urge granting of the loan with all the influence at his command.
I see. I'm told that you gave Manning an unusually heavy case of wine to take with him on the plane.
That is true, but I have no idea how the explosive was put aboard the plane, Mr. Kendall. But I assure you that the case of wine contained only wine. There would be no reason.
Now, Father, to take the money to Billy, and I... Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were alone.
It is well, Mara. This is Mr. Kendall, my daughter, Mara.
How are you doing?
Mr. Kendall is investigating Sir Hartley's death.
You mean his assassination? I hope you find the murderer, Mr. Kendall. And I hope that when you do, the crowd in the street tears him to pieces.
You must forgive her violence. Mara is a modern young woman in most ways, but her blood still remembers the glint of knives in the moonlight.
Yes. And I know where I would like to bury that knife.
Mara, stop it.
I'm sorry, Father. Mr. Kendall.
I understand.
But you see, hundreds of farms will go into bankruptcy. And then revolt, perhaps. And military rule, perhaps.
It's a grim picture, all right. Mass bankruptcy alone is bad enough, except for the person who profits by it.
Grommet.
Grommet?
He holds nearly all the mortgages on Arab lands, Mr. Kendall.
I see.
Oh, I will get it. Yes? Oh, just a moment. It is for you, Mr. Kendall.
No, thanks. Pardon me,
Yes.
Hello?
I've been hunting all over for you, Mr. Kendall. The hotel manager finally said to try this number.
Are you at the hotel now, Pagan?
No, I'm down at the harbor, but I'm going there. What are you doing so long up there in Casbah?
Drinking tea.
Tea?
Did you locate your friend?
Oh, sure. He says he's got the tip about that plane from his boss.
His boss?
Uh-huh.
Who does he work for?
Oh, some Arab character by the name of Abenhamid.
Good evening, Mr. Kendall.
Oh, hello, Mr. Garrett.
I phoned your room a while ago, but you weren't in. I was wondering if you'd care to have dinner with me.
Well, thanks. Glad to.
Good. Say, in about half an hour.
Oh, fine, I'll meet you in the lobby. Brief, please.
Oui, monsieur. You're Monsieur Kendall, no?
Right.
I have just taken a friend of yours up, Monsieur Kendall.
Oh?
I think he's very sick or something.
Huh?
Something is bad wrong with him. Floor, please.
Thanks. Devil could... What? Hagan. Hagan, what was wrong?
Stop, Mr. Kendall. It's in the back.
Here, take a look. Oh.
Forgive me, Mr. Kendall, for getting blood all over your floor.
Now, easy now. I've got a doctor up here right away. Just lie back there. Hagan. Hagan.
We will continue with The Man Called X in just a moment. Here's a word from RCA Victor. The RCA Victor factory service contract is practical and reliable. As the owner of an RCA Victor television set, you can enjoy the protection of an RCA Victor factory service contract. You can depend on it to keep your RCA Victor television receiver in perfect condition at all times, in all ways. And you always are sure to receive prompt, courteous, and expert service by RCA's own factory-trained technicians. Think of it. Hours and hours of uninterrupted pleasure. No unnecessary expense for repairs or parts. And service is available with or without a contract only to RCA Victor television owners. So make yours an RCA Victor television set. And if you're planning on buying a new one, be sure to hear and see the incomparable Regency, a magnificent television console. It's America's favorite television, featuring a big 17-inch screen in a matchless setting. And inquire about RCA Victor's factory service contract when you buy the Regency. Now to continue with The Man Called X, tonight starring Joseph Cotton with Leon Velasco as Pagan Zellschmidt. A plane explodes in midair over the Mediterranean, and Sir Hartley Manning, whose decision would have determined the fate of the Arab farm loan for North Africa, dies in the explosion, leaving his decision unknown. Algiers is seething with growing tension and the threat of violence. And now Joe Kendall returns to his hotel room to find Pagan knifed in the back and lying in a pool of blood.
Now let me clip the ends of this bandage. There. I guess that's about the best I can do, Mr. Kendall.
Still unconscious, Doctor?
Well, he seems to be stirring a bit now.
Wouldn't it be a good idea to move him to a hospital?
No, there's really no point in it. I'll be in room 110 if you need me, Mr. Kendall.
Thank you, Doctor.
Mr. Kendall,
Hiya, Pagan.
I don't really mind dying. You understand?
Huh?
But I want you to know that I'm sorry, Mr. Kendall, for all the bad things I've done.
What things?
Oh, I want you to forgive me. Ask Mr. Thurston to forgive me, too. You can even forget that $100 you owe me.
Now, that is repentant.
When you come right down to it, underneath it all, I'm your friend.
Yeah, I know that. Who was it, Pagan? Who stabbed you?
I don't know. It was dark. I know one thing, though. It was a girl.
A girl?
I could smell the perfume she was wearing. It was subtle, but exciting. Like voodoo or sabu or...
A connoisseur to the last.
Please. Your dear old friend is dying.
Oh, snap out of it, Pagan. You're all right.
Don't lie to me. I can take it. Yeah. The doctors said there wasn't even any point in taking me to the hospital.
Because there's no need to. That knife glanced along one of your ribs. You've got a bad surface cut, that's all. You're not going to die.
I'm not?
No.
Well, in that case, where's my $100?
Yes, the Arabs have always been their own worst enemies, Mr. Kendall, and this Manning affair has proved to be no exception.
How do you mean, Mr. Gromitz?
Well, I mean they antagonized Manning in every way possible, in spite of the efforts of some of us to get a favorable decision for the loan. And then when it became known that Manning would oppose the loan, they killed him.
You think, then, that the Arabs were responsible for the plane explosion?
I believe it is the only explanation that fits the fact.
Provided, of course, that the main fact you're referring to is correct, that Manning had decided to refuse the loan. As far as I know, that's only a rumor.
I can confirm it, Mr. Kendall. Yes. I talked with Manning here at the hotel only 2 hours before he went to the airfield. He told me he was turning down the loan.
I see.
I tried to reason with him, but it was no use. His mind was made up.
Mr. Gromitz, it would seem to me that your own interests might be better advanced if the loan were refused.
Because of mass bankruptcy, you mean? On the contrary, I have lost money on every foreclosure I have been forced to make.
And you claim to be as disappointed as the Arabs over Manning's decision.
Yes, but not disappointed enough to murder.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Well, incidentally, the airline officials tell me that you had nearly 200 pounds of baggage on the plane that blew up.
Why, yes, I had to leave the plane so hurriedly that there was no time to remove it.
They also tell me you've made no claim for reimbursement.
Well, I've been so shaken by that narrow escape that Kendall, I completely forgot about it.
It's that little shack right ahead, Mr. Kendall. On this side of the fishing wharf.
And next to the cannery. Pagon, your friend seems to go in for atmosphere.
Oh, Billy is not particular.
Billy?
Yeah, that's his name. Why?
Because it's also the name of a man Aben Hamid's daughter mentioned. She was going to see him and give him some money.
Oh, that figures. Billy said he worked for Aben Hamid.
Yeah, I know. Well, let's go.
The part I don't get, Mr. Kendall, is how come some character wants to kill me? I didn't do nothing.
No, but you could do something.
What?
You could testify that you were warned ahead of time that the plane was in danger.
Yeah, but... Huh?
And the man who warned you probably knows who caused the explosion.
Oh, maybe Billy just had a hunch.
Maybe. Suppose we ask him.
We can go right in. Billy never likes his dog. See?
Well, you ought to know. He's your friend.
That's funny. Must have gone off somewhere and left all the lights burned. Hey, look.
I guess we're a little late.
Somebody stuck a knife in Billy, too.
And they did a better job this time. He's dead.
But why did they kill
Why
him?
not? He served his purpose, and there was no use taking a chance on it.
Huh? Hey, what did you find?
A couple of bank drafts in his coat pocket. Signed by Aben Hamid. Well.
But who's behind all this stuff? Blowing up airplanes, killing people?
Well, we've got two good possibilities on opposite sides of the fence in this business of the Arab farm loan. Aben Hamid and a man named Gromitz. They both claim to know Manning's decision, and their claims disagree.
I got it. One of them is lying.
The question is which one? What was Manning's decision?
Well, I guess that's something we'll never know.
Maybe not, Pagan. But we can pretend to know. Oh, come in, Pagan.
Boy, for a lousy $100, I sure had to do a lot of running around. And me, sick man besides.
Did you get that rumor started?
Oh, sure. I'm an old hand at that racket. I planted it with the bellhops, taxi drivers, Arab guides. You know, the usual grape swamp.
Exactly what did you plant?
Oh, I just what you told me to. That before he went to the airport, this Manning guy had mailed a report with his decision about that Arab loan thing. Huh? And that the post office turned it over to you. And you're holding it unopened here in your room. Hey, are you?
Of course not.
I didn't think so, no, I didn't. Well, what do we do now?
Nothing. We wait.
You mean to see which one of those two guys tries to... Hey, there's a third one. You forgot about that daughter of Aben Hamid's.
No, I didn't.
It's after midnight. I don't think anybody's going to come here.
Well, you could be right.
Why I'm always getting myself mixed up with these messes anyhow.
Pagan, I often wonder.
Here I am, peacefully buying Persian rugs in Algiers, strictly legitimate, and what happens?
You nearly got blown up in an airplane.
Oh, that was an accident. What I mean is, I run into you, and 3 hours later I get knifed in the back.
That's friendship for you.
A friend wouldn't make a wounded man sit up all night.
You don't have to. Go on down to your room.
You get stabbed again? That's the kind of dilemma I always get myself into when... Mr. Ken, that perfume.
Huh?
Smell it? She's here somewhere.
Pagan, you
All
may...
right, gentlemen, don't move. Put up your hands, please.
Fire escape, huh?
I was afraid you might be expecting someone by way of the door, Mr. Kendall.
Hey, it's that Gromwitz guy.
That's right. Who did you expect?
But that perfume, I thought... He wears it on his hair.
I know. I noticed it at dinner. This is the man who stabbed you. Killed Bealey, too, didn't you, Gromwitz?
Certainly. After I had him tell your friend he worked for Robin Hamid, I wanted to make sure he wouldn't change the story.
And I imagine the explosives were planted in the luggage you left aboard the plane.
Of course, when Manning told me he was going to recommend a loan, I decided to eliminate him. It was really too easy.
But, Mr. Kendall, what about those bank drafts and Bealeys from Aben Hamid?
Interest payments on mortgages, I suppose, right, Gromwitz?
I really did not come here for a question and answer session, Mr. Kendall. I would like to have that report of Manning's.
Oh?
Now we're in for it. Mr. Kendall, if you knew he was that one, why did you let him come in here with a gun and
Because
get
I
the drop
wanted
with
him to admit a few things in front of witnesses.
Witnesses?
That's right. Come on in, Aben Hamid.
You will drop that gun, Mr. Gromwitz.
I will drop nothing. Watch him! He's going to go out the window.
Gromwitz, stop!
Don't try to stop me or I will up. Slip! Look!
Oh, Mr. Kendall. He fell off the fire escape. He fell clear to the pavement.
Yeah. Well, it won't bring Manning back, Aben Hamid. But at least there'll be enough evidence to ensure passage of the Arab loan.
May Allah be thanked. My people have a saying, Mr. Kendall, that he who steals the water from his neighbor's well will fall someday from a high place. Never have I seen the saying more amazingly fulfilled.
It's a true saying. He who steals the water from his neighbor's well. That's exactly what's going on today all over the world, stealing water from a neighbor's well, trying to win at somebody else's expense. And the water's always lost. Nobody gains. Why don't they dig their own wells?
Our star for tonight, Mr. Joseph Cotton, will return in just a moment. Now, here again is our star for tonight, Mr. Joseph Cotton.
As Herbert Marshall would say, thanks for being with us. My thanks to Lucille Meredith, Will Wright, Stan Waxman, Polly Bear, and Harry Bartell. Next week, a flying trip to Indonesia. And, of course, Leon Velasco will be along as Pagan. So listen, won't you, when Herbert Marshall returns as the man called X. Good night.
Joseph Cotton may currently be seen in the Hal Wallace production Pekin Express. The Man Called X is the Friday night feature on NBC's 5-show festival of comedy, music, mystery, and drama. Brought to you by the makers of Anacin for fast relief from the pain of headache, neuritis, neuralgia. By RCA Victor, world leader in radio, first in recorded music, first in television. And by Chesterfield, always milder, better tasting, cooler smoking, plus no unpleasant aftertaste. The Man Called X is a J. Richard Kennedy production with music by Milton Charles. Tonight's story was written by Les Crutchfield. All characters and incidents on this program are fictitious, and any resemblance to actual characters or incidents is purely coincidental. Be sure to hear the magnificent Montague with Monty Woolley, formerly heard on Friday, now brought to you as a Saturday night feature of NBC's All-Star Festival. And until next week, same time and station, this is Jack Latham saying good night for The Man Called X. Next, join Roy Shield on NBC.
Welcome back. Well, it says something about Herbert Marshall, the type of substitute actors that he's able to call in. John Lon, Van Heflin, and now Joseph Cotton, who arguably of the three was the best actor and had the most storied career. Of course, he starred in The Third Man, which we played for you back on our 3000th episode special, which was about a couple years ago now, I think. And he is really able to step in as Joe Kendall and handle this quite well. There were some obvious rewrites, such as when it was stated that Joe Kendall was the man from the Bureau. Pagon really did steal the show here. I loved his, I guess you could call it, deathbed scene where he was apologizing and repenting. And then just the quick switch. I mean, that was just beautiful comic timing. The ending was maybe a bit contrived in order perhaps to match with this saying, which I'm kind of thinking was real, but falling off a fire escape, that is such a clumsy way to go. And I think, as a mystery, it was kind of obvious, too. The guy who got on the plane and put a big package on board and then left the flight was kind of an obvious choice. But then again, I guess if you were expecting him to be the choice, you would maybe think again. And therefore, you would be surprised that it was what you were thinking about in the first place. At any rate, we turn now to listener comments and feedback. And we have a comment from Joan. And Joan writes, Herbert Marshall was, and this was regarding our big 3,650th episode special. And she says, Herbert Marshall was really good in the show. It was great to hear him in a different setting. Thank you, Adam. Well, thank you so much, Joan. And it is nice to hear Herbert Marshall in a lot of different settings. That's been one of the fun things the last couple of years doing the app and going out and choosing the app extras is he was such a versatile actor. He could play these very dignified, even regal characters, but he could also do superb in a comedy. And then we have Facebook message from Dan, who says, I've had 2 of your apps for years now. I listen to Dragnet and Great Detectives almost every night and while fishing. I'm focused on Sherlock Holmes right now. I like the show, but I'm disappointed I can't drink Petri wine while listening. I suggest if you sold Petri wine in your store, you'd become a millionaire overnight. My favorite is Pat Novak, even though the episodes are free. What other radio shows have dialogue similar to Pat? Well, thanks so much, Dan. I'm pretty sure nobody can make Petri wine, actually. The trademark was sold and it's been through some acquisitions. Actually, I don't think the selling of Petri wine did the people who owned it a whole lot of good. But I guess if you were going to sell wines, Idaho wouldn't be a bad place to do it. I was surprised how many wineries we have around here. We're not California, but there are plenty. So would Petri wine made in Idaho sell? And as for Pat Novak for hire, other than Johnny Badero, I don't think anyone ever came close to that type of dialogue. You get, some shows that have, some hard-boiled dialogue, like New Adventures of Michael Shane. But Pat Novak really was in a league of its own. And it's such a unique oddity. It's very much a cult show of either you love it or you hate it. I might have an idea for something interesting around Pat Novak for hire. Not revisiting the series. If you're not a fan of the series, you don't need to worry about that. But something else, we'll see if that materializes, and I'll definitely let you guys know. Thanks so much for the message, Dan. And now it is time to thank our Patreon supporter of the day. Thank you to Jameson, Patreon supporter since June of 2015, currently supporting us at the Detective Sergeant level of $7.14 or more per month. Again, thanks so much for your support, Jameson. We'll be back next week with another episode of The Man Called X and Herbert Marshall back. But join us back here tomorrow for Philo Vance, where...
I'm sorry, Miss Westcott. What you ask is impossible. I cannot release your aunt.
But there's nothing wrong with her. There's no reason for her to be locked up in your... whatever you call this place.
It's a rest home, Miss Westcott. The finest in the East. Our patients have every comfort, every care.
Maybe. And if they're ill, maybe that's what they need. But not my aunt. There's nothing wrong with her. She's a wealthy woman, and her family had her put here so that they could get her money.
I'm sorry. Well, that may be so, but your aunt has never said she was unhappy here. Never asked to be released. Apparently, she's quite content. The only person making trouble, as far as I can see, is you. Excuse me. Yes? Yes, I'll see him. Send him right in. I'm sorry, Miss Westcott. I'll have to ask you to leave. To leave this building and these grounds. I have an appointment with my chief assistant.
With your chief guard, you mean? I've seen the way he treats Aunt Alice. Mr. Ward, believe me, I'm going to do something about this place and about you.
Oh, you got company, I see.
Miss Westcott was just leaving. Good day, my dear. We'll keep you informed as to your aunt's condition.
There'll be an improvement in that condition with her out of here, and I'm going to see to it that she does get out. I promise you that. I promise that to Aunt Alice. And what's just as important, I promise that to myself.
She's really got a beef, ain't she, boss?
She thinks she has. Durant, I sent for you because there have been complaints about your tactics. You're a little too rough with our guests.
Guests? Stop kidding. You know, I've been meaning for you and I to have a talk, Ward, and this is as good a time as any.
Oh?
You got a good racket here. I want in on it.
Racket?
Don't raise your eyebrows at me. I work here. That kindly little kisser of yours and your pretty snow-white hair don't fool me. This joint's practically a prison for people whose families want them out of the way. You ain't such a nice character as you look, Ward.
Well, that does call for a little talk between you and me, Al. Shall we say this evening?
I hope you'll join us then. In the meantime, do send your comments to box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives and check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/greatdetectives. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.